Paul McWilliams. I'm married to Laura. We live in the outskirts of Scarborough in Seamer. I'm a retired police officer and now I'm a voluntary church worker. Left school at 16, got a job. First of all, I was an agriculture engineer, so I was welding and steel fabricating. Did that for 12 years, but I knew I had something to do that was more community minded, so I applied and was successful. I joined the Metropolitan Police. I was an officer down there in London, in sunny Peckham, and I was working there. Was a busy man, and I always say I was a good policeman, but I wasn't a very nice man. Working in South East London was very busy, and then one night my life changed very dramatically. Just before midnight on the 25th of February in 1990, I was on duty and I was hit by a stolen car. Now the car hit me at about 40 miles an hour. I received massive injuries to my legs, to my head, some internal injuries. So severe, in fact, that my colleagues dealt with it as a fatal accident. I was carted off to hospital in an ambulance. I'm led to believe that I was resuscitated en route to the hospital, in the 10-minute journey to the hospital. I arrived at hospital in a million pieces. I was operated on for 13 hours. They rebuilt my face, my head, my legs, put me back together again. And I was in a coma, and not expected to live or to ever have any decent standard of living afterwards because of my brain injuries. And for 5 weeks I was in a coma. I wasn't aware of anything happening around me. Then all of a sudden I knew I was in a dark place, very dark and very cold, and it was an awful place to be. There were lots of noises around me that I couldn't understand. It was terrifying. And then at some point a light appeared, a dim light, and I'm completely passive throughout. I just looked at the light thinking, well, this is better. And then all of a sudden I appeared to be in a big room, just myself in this big room, and at the far end was a really bright light. And as I looked at this light, I could see in front of the light, maybe 30-40 meters away, I could see a man, an outline of a man, and I just knew that that was Jesus. Now, for a guy that never done church and never read a Bible, that was a revelation, but I knew this guy was Jesus. He walked out of this light, walked over to me, and when he got within a few feet of me, I just had this overwhelming sense of love, much greater than anything I've ever felt. And he looked me in the eye, and he put his arm around my shoulder, and with his right hand he reached out and touched me on the forehead, where I had this massive head injury. And he just said, "I love you." And it was the most honest, perfect thing I think anybody's ever said to me, "I love you." And then he said, "Don't worry." I woke up in hospital after having this revelation, very, very sore, very painful. They'd rebuilt my face, my hands, obviously my legs. For five weeks I'd been in a coma, so I was very poorly. I was in hospital for 4 months. Once I could walk, I was discharged. And I didn't do anything with this revelation apart from tell everybody about it. All my police colleagues, all my family, everybody I met knew I'd had this meeting with this Jesus bloke. And I didn't do anything with it. You see, I didn't have any impression of church. I didn't recognise church as an essential part of my life. So I tried to do the things I used to do. I bought myself a nice car, I tried to go shopping, and things didn't feel right anymore. My friends, my family, the police force really supported me through the next couple of years. And then one day I met a beautiful young girl who's become my wife, Laura, and she encouraged me to come to church, and I put it off as often as I could. And then one day the vicar came out from the church, a guy called Michael, and Michael was a man's man, and he liked my car, and I spoke to him, and he invited me in for a coffee to the after-church service. And during the after-church service I saw some normal people, not what I thought Christians looked like. And chatting to Michael, I felt obliged to come to church the next Sunday. So I went with Laura, and I sat through the service not really knowing what was going to happen, what was going on, not understanding a lot of it. And yet I knew I'd come home. I knew I'd come to the place where Jesus was and where God wanted me. The reason why Jesus came, and I needn't wrap it up in any clever language, he came because he loved me. He met me in my darkest hour because he loved me. He has changed my life for the better.